A man, out of breath and frightened, runs through a dark forest in Ireland. The quiet is only broken by his loud footsteps and the sound of leaves moving. It's cold and getting darker, but he keeps running. He passes strange signs saying "point of no return" with numbers on them. It could be a warning or maybe directions, but to where? Suddenly, he disappears into the night and falls into a hidden hole. An unseen force grabs him and pulls him away. Elsewhere, we meet Mina, a kind artist who also works at a pet store. Her life changes when her boss asks her to deliver a rare parrot to a zoo in a nearby city. Mina keeps the colorful bird at her place overnight. Talking to the parrot, she mentions her mother died 15 years ago. Surprisingly, the parrot starts talking back, copying her words perfectly. That night, Mina puts on a wig and goes to a local bar, pretending to be a ballerina. The next morning, feeling guilty, she apologizes to the parrot, admitting she's not as interesting as she pretends. With the morning, she and the parrot, now called Darwin, set off. Mina's sister Lucy calls to remind her of her loving family waiting for her. But as they approach an old, dark forest, their car breaks down. With no phone signal and it getting darker, Mina looks for help. She talks to Darwin to stay positive, but then turns around to see the car has vanished. With no other options, Mina walks on. She sees a woman running towards a small cabin and follows. Inside, an elderly lady named Meline quickly tells Mina to stand in front of a mirror, a safe place from the dangerous watchers outside. As night comes each day, Mina, now living in the odd cabin in the forest, hears clapping from outside near the mirror she often looks into. Meline, the wise old woman who seems to understand this spooky place, simply nods. "The watchers are clapping," she says. "They're interested in the new thing in the mirror." It's all very weird for Mina, and by morning, she decides she needs to leave. Despite being told by others that leaving is impossible, Mina courageously walks into the forest. Meline follows her to explain more. "This forest makes you see things that aren't real, but you can survive here," she tells her. The signs around the forest mark a safe area. Crossing them means you can't come back. They were set up by someone called the Professor, but no one knows where he is now. That evening, Daniel, another person staying in the cabin, performs for the watchers. They tell Mina to act normal during the show. Sierra, another cabin resident, plays music and dances, something she does every night. Mina finds some old dating show DVDs, which give her a break from the dullness of the cabin life. The next day, Mina and Sierra go out to collect healing plants, keeping a promise Sierra made to her missing husband who vanished looking for a way out. Sierra tells Mina about strange holes in the forest where the watchers hide during the day. She thinks she's been stuck in the cabin for about 5 months. Meline sets clear safety rules. Never go out at night, never open the doors for anyone, and always stay where it's light. As days merge into each other, Mina often finds herself staring into the mirror. One day, she knocks on it. Right away, there's a knock on the door. Meline quickly tells everyone to stop moving, and for a moment, everything is still. The next day, Mina and Daniel go hunting. During their walk, Daniel talks about Meline, who used to work at a university and thinks of herself as very smart, having lived in the cabin the longest. Daniel has been there for 8 months and has never seen anyone new come or go. After hearing his story, Mina convinces Daniel to help her check out one of the mysterious holes. They tie a rope for safety, and Mina goes down into the darkness. There, among the moist and quiet darkness, she finds leftovers of a forgotten world. Old newspapers, toys, electronic parts, and an old bicycle, which she attaches to the rope to pull up. As Mina explores a mysterious underground hole, a creepy echo surrounds her, similar to the odd noises they often hear outside the cabin at night. Suddenly, Mina yells as the rope she's holding falls at her feet. Quickly, she climbs out to safety, shaken but unharmed. They look at the items she found, including an old bicycle that gives them hope they might escape. But Meline seems strangely against using the bicycle to leave. Meanwhile, Daniel puts together a basic security camera using parts from the electronics Mina found. He sets up the camera by the door, hoping it will make them safer. That night, while Sierra is dancing to her music, a knock at the door surprises everyone. Daniel thinks it might be a visitor, but Meline firmly tells them not to open it. Then they hear a voice. Sierra's husband, JN, asking for help. Sierra tries to confirm it's really him by asking about a book they bought together, but he can't answer correctly. Suddenly, something pulls JN back into the dark forest. Right after, there's a loud knock on the mirror, stronger than before. Meline steps up as if to protect everyone, and the knocking stops. The next morning, in a sudden move, Meline throws the bicycle into the hole, saying they must not break the rules. This makes Mina remember a sad event from her childhood. She recalls a car ride with her sister and mother. Mina had opened the car window, despite her mother's request to keep it closed because of the wind. Distracted, Her mother crashed the car? An accident Mina still feels guilty about. As winter comes, the days get shorter, the nights colder, and food is harder to find. Tensions grow in the cabin. One day, Sierra, convinced that Jayen was real, runs into the forest. Mina follows her, and they talk about what happened. Suddenly, they hear Daniel screaming from this cabin. Malene, stern and firm, won't let them back in. The women hide under a tree, and soon, scary, spider-like creatures appear from the woods, moving toward the cabin. These tall, scary figures press against the windows, making high-pitched noises that fill the night. They are the Watchers, and their focus is now on Daniel inside the cabin, making everyone even more frightened. As the scary creatures stay outside, Mina and Malene wait anxiously under the tree. When the creatures finally go back into the dark forest, the women quickly run to the cabin door, asking to be let in. At first, Daniel doesn't want to open the door because he is scared, but Mina shares her deep sadness about her mother's accident, trying to connect with Daniel's kind feelings. She talks about the pain of feeling responsible for someone's death, hoping he will understand and forgive. Touched by her openness, Daniel lets them in. Inside, they all stand in front of the mirror, a usual act that seems to calm the mysterious Watchers. Malene, finding a quiet moment, tells her story. She used to teach history and mythology and chose to come to this forest, only to learn how dangerous it was. She shares a creepy moment when she saw something that looked a lot like her at sunset. Not exactly the same, but very close. Malene explains that the Watchers are an old type of being, known by many names like changelings, winged ones, and fairies. They like to study humans, copy them exactly, and they never let their subjects go. As they start to understand this tough reality, they hear more voices outside, probably more tricks by the Watchers. Suddenly, Daniel finds a hidden hatch in the floor that they didn't know about. Going down into this new area, they find a well-stocked bunker with lots of food and tools, very different from the simple cabin above. Mina starts an old computer, and a video starts playing, showing a man named Rory Kilmartin, also known as the Professor. In the video, the Professor talks about how he found this place in 1979, calling it Wonderland. He says that the Watchers used to come to his window and watch him for years. His friends didn't believe his stories about these creatures. Wanting to prove them wrong and keep himself safe, he built the bunker with the help of men from nearby villages, people who were alone or not well liked, whose disappearances wouldn't cause much trouble. He tricked these men into staying outside while he watched from safety as the Watchers took them, using their loss to build his bunker. The Professor's work became more serious when a unique Watcher, a girl with red hair, showed up. She was different, curious, and seemed less harmful. Taking this chance, he captured her, thinking that understanding these fairies might help him control death itself. He started experiments to talk to her and try to befriend her, pushing the limits of what was thought possible with these mysterious beings. In the last part of the Professor's videos, the group watches as he talks about his final days. The red-haired fairy he caught would sometimes change into a scary creature with long arms, but over time, she seemed to start understanding him and got closer. Even with this connection, the Professor felt his life's work didn't matter much. Ready to give up, he mentions a boat by the river. This, he says, is the only way out. His last wish is for whoever makes it out to destroy all his research at his university office. In his last video, we see him heading towards his end. Gunshots are heard, then nothing. Realizing the seriousness of their situation, Sierra tries to cheer everyone up on what they think might be their last night in the forest. She plays music and asks Daniel to dance. Even with a chance to escape, Daniel feels unsure. He shares that his family life is a mess, and he feels he has no home to go back to. Sierra, now close to Daniel after everything they've been through, tells him he can stay with her until he finds a job and a place to live. In the morning, filled with hope and led by Mina's parrot, they follow signs through the forest. They find a large stone disc on the ground, covering the entrance to a big tunnel. Malene explains that this is where the last ancient fairies are trapped. These fairies, once friends with humans, now hate them and are kept there by magic. As they walk, it gets dark, and they still can't see the river, making them lose hope. Then, they notice birds flying in one direction and follow them, finally reaching the river. As the women run to the boat, Daniel hears screams behind him. He turns and thinks he sees JN. Happy, he runs back, but it's a trap. A Watcher pretending to be JN. The women yell for him to run, but it's too late. Daniel is killed, and the Watcher takes his form. Malene, Mina, and Sierra manage to escape on the boat down the river. When they wake up, they find themselves back in the regular world. They catch a bus to the city. The soft music playing on the bus is so different from the scary sounds of the forest. Only now, as they leave the frightening experiences behind, do they realize it's truly over. After escaping the spooky forest, Mina decides to go to the university where Professor Kilmartin used to work. Pretending to be his niece, she gets into his office to do what he asked in his last message: destroy all his research. Inside, she finds many documents, pictures, and a recording about the fairies and mentioning half-blood children still around the world. Among the pictures, Mina is shocked to find one in particular. That evening, Mina visits Ciara's house with a big shock. She shows Ciara a photo of Malene from the professor's stuff, explaining that this Malene was actually his wife who had died years ago. This means the Melon they met in the cabin was a special kind of fairy that can walk in the day, the same one Professor Kilmartin had caught. He hadn't been able to kill her, and instead, she took on Mina's form to blend back into civilization. While they talk, a car arrives, and the real Ciara steps out. Surprisingly, the Ciara inside the house with Mina turns out to be a fairy. Caught, the fairy knocks Mina out and changes into Daniel. The fairy, taking on different forms, talks about wanting to live freely among other creatures, but explains that human hatred makes them hide. The fairy then changes into Kilmartin and comes at Mina with a dangerous look. As the fairy gets ready to attack, Mina, waking up, shares that she is half human, half fairy herself, saying it was wrong for humans to kick fairies out of their world. This moves the fairy, who softens, and spreading her wings, agrees Mina might be right before flying away. Mina gets better, and later meets up with her twin sister Lucy, finally forgiving herself for their mother's accident. She tells Lucy about her scary experiences, admitting she still sees Malene in other people. Lucy's daughter then shows Mina a drawing of her and Darwin, the parrot she kept as a pet. Outside their apartment, a girl with red hair watches, slowly changing into someone else with a strange face. This story, filled with mystery and fear, doesn't end with a typical scary movie ending, but as a ghostly yet everyday bedtime story, told slowly and thoughtfully. Please like, share, and subscribe, and let us know what you think about this movie